The USC Trojans picked up a huge fish in the class of 2023 in point guard Isaiah Collier. Can this help elevate Andy Enfield's program into a legitimate powerhouse?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up? Welcome to the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Andy Patton, and today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Jason Jordan of Sports Illustrated joins me today to talk about the end of the early recruiting signing period and the big fish that happened, the biggest story, Isaiah Collier going to the USC Trojans. It seemed like kind of a foregone conclusion for a while, or at least the expectation that he was going to end up there with his old high school teammate, Arrington Page. Now we know officially Collier going to USC, going to be in Southern California. Jason, before we talk about the class at large and what this means for USC, I'd love to just learn a little bit more about Collier as a player and like kind of what he's going to bring to USC and really just to the college basketball game.
Yeah, no, it's a huge pickup for Enfield. And I can't say yet because our SI-99 hasn't come out yet, but it's coming out early next month. Yeah. But he's certainly in the conversation to be the top player in the class. People forget him because he was hurt for most of the summer. So he started off the summer dominating the first two sessions of the Nike EYBL. When I say dominate, I'm talking like top 3 in scoring, top assist guy. You know, when you're talking about a point guard, these are the two things that you look at first, right? Yeah. So he's dominating both of those things. I mean, you could make the argument that he was the best player in the Nike EYBL. Then he gets hurt at USA Basketball trying out for that. Sits for 2 months, comes back to the Steph Curry camp. Best guards all the top point guards in the country are there, and he wins MVP. And 2 weeks later, he goes to the Elite 24. All the top players in the country are there, a lot of them, and he wins MVP. So back-to-back MVPs at two of the top events of the summer. After he dominated first, so people forget that in the in between, it's not something he could help, but. Just at 6'4", just a dynamic, complete point guard, super athlete, great pace, great vision, just super high IQ. I'm really high on him, as you can obviously see, but he just makes the right reads at all time, can control tempo. He can play two different paces, but just strong with the ball, gets to where he wants to on the court, knocks down shots. Very smart, a winner. Definitely a winner. Won 2 of the last 3 state titles in Georgia, which I can make the argument that Georgia is the hotbed of recruiting in the country, statewide. So, just dominant in every sense of the word on the court, and a guy I'm obviously very high on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. A lot of the kind of articles when you're reading about kind of the 2023 class and articles about Collier in particular kind of mention that he was a late riser. But it sounds to me like it's less of him being a late riser and more of like he's been really good the whole time. He just missed some time with an injury. Is that kind of your read on it?
Absolutely. And people who say that don't, that just should tell you all you need to know. Right? I don't care who said it. That should tell you all you need to know right there, because he dominated his junior season. He dominated his sophomore season. Right. And he went from dominating as a junior to dominating the spring on the Skill Factory. So. Just consistency. And that's one of the biggest things I put a premium on.
One of the things that's been kind of interesting to watch Andy Enfield's development at USC and kind of the program in general is for a long time, they've been really good. He's been really good at bringing in high level bigs. Onyeka Okongwu, obviously the Mobley brothers were both incredible players, NBA players. Evan Mobley is a potential NBA all-star caliber player. But for a while, Enfield was kind of reverting to the transfer portal to get guards. We saw Taj Edey out of Santa Clara. We saw Boogie Ellis, Drew Peterson, who's kind of a point forward-ish. But they didn't really get a lot of high-profile guards via recruiting. This obviously changes that conversation pretty considerably. If Enfield can start landing like top tier big men recruits like the Mobleys and can start getting players like Collier too, like this could be, I mean, it looks like as of right now that this class is going to be a top 10 class again for Enfield. That's really rare in USC's history to put together top 10 recruiting classes in such a quick succession. Like, are you kind of getting a sense that maybe Enfield could start to really, or continue, I guess, to really start doing some damage in the recruiting world?
Well, it's a big step. It's a big step at the best position, at the most important position. We actually have them at number 9, so they're definitely top 10 in the SI All-American team rankings. But that was one of the biggest questions. I don't. We did an in-depth all access piece on Isaiah when we sat down with his family to weigh out the pros and cons at SI. A long form piece, very interesting. Not because I wrote it, just because it's interesting what kids weigh out and what their families talk about. But that was one of the things when it came to USC was like, he develops these stretch fours and these, NBA bigs, fluid bigs, but I haven't seen the elite dominant 5-star point guard. So
but
they did a lot of, to their credit, they did a lot of investigation and they did a lot of legwork, just researching synergy and how Enfield's point guards are, they really ignite the offense, but he just hasn't had an Isaiah, but they're all very productive, right? Then you put in Isaiah in that lane and how he uses them, then it's pretty much 1 + 1 is 2, and so that was USC's spiel, and, and that's how they were able to sell them on him coming there, and obviously it worked. So, but it makes sense. It makes sense. And to your point, it's definitely, here's how it works. You land one, they do well, you can sell that like that's your thing from now on. Like, so, all it takes is one, and they got the biggest fish. They got arguably the biggest fish in the class. So, that would definitely put him a step ahead and going in the right direction of being a dominant force in the recruiting space.
Yeah, well, and this class, I mean, obviously Collier is the big piece for them, but it's a solid class all around. They got Arrington Page, they got Silas Damari Jr., like you said, 9th in SI's recruiting class. I think pretty much every other outlet or place has them top 10 or right around there. What do you think about the class in general, not just Collier, but along with Page and Damari Jr.? Yeah,
love Page. Very, very productive big, and they obviously have a chemistry that they play high school, but then they also play summer ball too together. They've known each other for years. They're very, very close. But Silas Demery, underrated. Just why? I mean, I guarantee you, when RSI 99 comes out, he'll have his highest ranking with us. I watched him a lot. Like, he just a complete guy who impacts the game from the backcourt. He play both. He'll pair well with Isaiah. Because he can slide over. They just, that 2-point guard lineup with those two could be that could be devastating because they do a lot of different things well. But Silas is a super underrated prospect in that class, and I think a guy who could definitely be a difference maker from day one, even with Isaiah in the lineup, because I think Isaiah's a winner. Literally just a winner. He don't like hoopla. He told me he doesn't even like official visits. I mean, that's the first time I've heard that. He said it's because it's too much attention on me. I don't like it, right? So, that should tell you all you need to know about him. They got a good one with him.
Well, Isaiah Collier was not the only big-time player to commit this week. We'll talk all about Chris Beard and Texas's latest prize addition, as well as a tapered, realistic expectation for Bronny James. But first, today's episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Upside. From cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, and it really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. The app is super simple to use, and there's no catch. To get started, download the free Upside app. Use my promo code LOCKED and you will get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 and up. Next, you can claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and you get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's part of why Upside has a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCK to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 and up. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 up using code LOCKED. All right, welcome back, Locked On College Basketball. Want to sincerely thank all of you for making Locked On College Basketball your first listen of the day. For your second listen today, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. All right, Jason, two prospects I want to talk about here in the second segment. One of them is AJ Johnson. He just committed to join Chris Beard and the Texas Longhorns. Jason, what can you tell me about this kid and what he brings to Texas?
About his game, definitely. I mean, he's a 6'5" freak athlete, scores on all three levels. It's funny, he and Jalen Green call each other brothers. Not actually, they're not biological blood brothers, but they call each other. They're very close, but they play alike and they look alike, and their games. You know, I mean, I would love to look like my game at the, at the Y League, look like Jalen Green, right?
Absolutely.
Because it means I'm out there getting buckets, but they're built the same way, long, 6'4", 6'5". They make the wild plays, of course, and stuff like that. But I think, AJ's another underrated guy. He played for Jalen Green Elite this summer in the DS3 SSB, and he was one of the best players in the circuit. So, definitely a freak athlete who can play both guard positions. But I think he's at his best when he's in attack mode on the offensive end, just because he's so long and so quick and shifty. He creates matchup problems that are devastating for the opposition. I've seen it time and time again. And he plays with that air about it in a good way. So he's a player I really like in that class. And a guy I expect a lot out of at the next level immediately.
Want to talk about Bronny as well. Bronny James, of course, LeBron James' son. It's been quite a story. Obviously, anytime a player of that caliber, we've seen it with Michael Jordan's sons. We've seen it with other prominent kids. It's a tough life. Like I feel for these kids in a lot of ways. Bronny has obviously had this incredible amount of attention on him and on his recruitment. He's the most well-known player in the class of 2023, despite not showing up on the top 10, 15, 20, mostly of these lists. Still a very talented player. And as of right now, at least according to what I'm able to find out, there's not a ton. It's been pretty quiet. It's been a little secretive for Bronny. We've seen like schools kind of pop up and then kind of disappear on the radar. We saw Oregon for a bit. We saw USC for a bit, Memphis, Ohio State. I'd love to hear, first of all, just kind of what kind of player he is, because I think a lot of people are going to make some assumptions about what kind of player he is that may not be accurate. And then maybe if you have a sense of what direction he might be going. Yeah,
I like him. I like him as a player. 6'3" point guard, but he can play both. But I think they want him to play point guard. I think he'd be a really good point guard. Not, I wouldn't say he's a dynamic scorer. Just he's smart. He's smart and he's got the tools, right? He's super athletic. Of course, he can go out there and get on the break and make an insane top 10 Sports Center play. But just really smart, stays in his lane, doesn't try to do things that he can't do. And I respect that. I respect him for that. The problem comes in with other people. Right? So when I say other people, I'm talking fans and expectations. Nothing he can do about it. His actual name, at birth was LeBron James Jr. He changed it to Bronny. LeBron said that was a mistake. It was, but even without the name, I mean, Michael's kid's name was Jeff, and I did stories on him back when he was coming up, and there's no way around it. So, people expect Bronny to be LeBron. He's not LeBron, not even close. Respectfully, he's not even close. But I think, this is my thing. I think he could be a really good college point guard if they let him go through the process, go at his own pace. Right. Be a 4-year guy. Right now, if this is how I gauge it, people, I'm just too honest. This is how I gauge it. If your name was John Jackson,
Yeah.
I don't know where I came up with that name. John Jackson. And I came to watch him EYBL at the stops. I'd be like, "Oh, he's good. I like him."
Yeah.
Right. Let me write this number down. Number 6. He's pretty good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But people are like, I mean, is he?
Yeah.
I wonder if LeBron's going to stay for him to be in the NBA, huh? Yeah. I don't know that he's going to the NBA. People thought, well, LeBron will get him in. Well, Michael Jordan couldn't get Jeff in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I know it's a different world now.
Mm-hmm.
Just off pure, just straight raw talent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see that right now.
Yeah.
That's why I say, hey, let him go at his own pace. But they're not going to do that. No. LeBron doesn't want the expectations and the
mm-hmm.
pressure to be on him. But he also says, I want to play with my kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's my dream, to play with my kid in the NBA. It's like, it sounds like pressure. But
you're right.
But he's not going to be able to escape what it is that is in store for him, that is already here. But I think he's a good player. I think he would be a really good role player on a really good team.
Right.
I think he could really adapt and play his role well, and then shine sometimes too, because he's good. Like, he's a good player. He knows how to play. He makes winning plays. Potentially a lockdown defender in the backcourt. But I worry that the hype train will not let him. Will not pump the brakes a little bit.
I wonder too, like, NIL obviously wasn't around for Jordan's kids, and it hasn't been around for a very long period. And obviously Bronny and the James family don't need money, in the sense that, a lot of players are trying to go get NIL in a sense to help their families. Clearly that's not the case here, but it obviously plays a role. And it obviously is one of those things where a lot of these schools are interested in Bronny, partly because of his talent. And I'm not saying that that they have entirely ulterior motives, but it's not hard to see why some of these programs would be interested in adding Bronny, because of what it would bring to them from a financial perspective, just viewership, eyeballs, maybe LeBron's at games, all of that kind of stuff. And like, that's the thing that seems very unfair to me about Bronny, because I'm looking at this list of schools that have showed at least some level of interest in him. And you've seen him a lot more than I have. You know what kind of player he is. You know that he is talented and he can contribute on some of these high level teams. But it's really hard for me to know if any of these programs would be how interested. They might have some interest in him, or at least know who he is if his name was with John Jackson or whatever it was that you said. But like, it does seem like, am I going to end up going to a school where I'm not good enough, or where I'm not in a position to succeed because of my name, because of this different situation? And I can't personally imagine what it would be like trying to navigate that space. And you have to wonder, like, if Bronny's going to be able to find himself a position, and he has taken his time, it seems like, and is trying to make the right decision. And that is very commendable, but feels like a borderline impossible situation for him to find something that fits just his skill set without his name attached to it.
Yeah, no way around it. I mean, it's rough, that's rough. That's a rough seat, and it'll be rough for Bryce too.
Yeah.
It's going to be rougher for Bronny because he's first.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of the guinea pig with everything. And there's nothing you can do to prepare. LeBron could call MJ and say, how'd you do it with Jeff? And he's gonna be like, dude, I can't, it's nothing I can do. I didn't have Twitter back then, so it's not, I can't help you out. And I think they get some stuff wrong. I think they do. And I think they'll learn from how they're doing. Like, just the fact that he doesn't talk. I think they're, you got to expose them a little bit. But hey, man, at the end of the day, do what's best for you and your kids. I love it. You like it. I love it. But I mean, we'll see. I wish that they would let him just be, a role player. I think he's a role player. I think he's a role player, but a really good role player that could potentially, role players go to the NBA. That's a knock. Role players make a lot of money in the NBA. There are a lot of millionaires in the NBA that are role players.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Isaiah Collier and AJ Johnson were not the only high-profile recruits to sign this past week. Jason's going to join us to talk about 3 more high-profile players who could have a potentially huge impact with their new clubs starting in 23. Before we get there, though, I want to tell you all about BetOnline. College basketball and the NBA are back in action. College football and the NFL remain in the thick of their seasons. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, you name it. BetOnline remains the best spot for all the latest sports developments, including podcasts and reviews for all of the leagues this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. They even have lines for coaching changes across every major sport, so even in the offseason, you can get your fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Jason, I want to switch gears on you one more time and talk about a couple of players who did recently sign who maybe didn't make the biggest headlines the way that DJ Wagner did, the way that Isaiah Collier did, but guys that I think can contribute very significantly at their new stops. I want to start talking about Cody Williams because Cody Williams is a player that I saw a ton of Jalen Williams last year as a Gonzaga person, as somebody who watched a lot of WCC, and Jalen Williams was just absolutely incredible at Santa Clara, incredible shot maker, lengthy defensive guy, ended up going 12th overall to Oklahoma City. So there was a lot of kind of hype and enthusiasm about Cody Williams, a player I've seen described to as advanced as Jalen was at the same age. There was some hope in WCC circles that Cody would end up at Santa Clara as well and kind of keep that pipeline going. He ends up going to Colorado, which is perhaps the most fascinating team so far in college basketball this year, with their wins over Tennessee and A&M and losses to teams significantly worse than those two teams. But now they add this really nice piece in Cody Williams, 6'8", kind of combo forward who seems like he can do a lot. Would love to hear your thoughts on him as a player and his fit with Tad Boyle's team.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything 6'8", lengthy. Obviously, he's got the pedigree, like you said, with his brother. Is not the shooter his brother is. So that would be the biggest part of his game he has to work on. Not a great perimeter shooter, but the thing is, he gets to the basket whenever he wants to because of his length and size. And so, he tends to lean into that. I mean, most players do lean into their strengths, right? And so he also, because of his abilities as a slasher, he gets to the line a lot. And so, he's got a pro game. I mean, highest rated recruit in Colorado's history. So shout out to Tad Boyle for that. But I definitely think he's going to be able to come in. I mean, I know that their plan for him is to come in and, I think they're going to kind of let him rock, kind of give him the ball and, do what he does. But he's definitely going to have to, the thing is, and I say this, I remember CJ Leslie years ago. I'm really dating myself. I think he was 2010, class of 2010. So I'm being an old guy right now, but the best thing about him was how athletic he was. Right. And I compare him because they're kind of the same build and everything. Their games are similar. And when the best thing about you is how athletic you are, it's easy to scout that. It's easy to stop that. And that he found that out at NC State. And also, you go somewhere where your help is, there's not an abundance of help because you kind of want to be the man. I'm not saying Cody did that, but I mean, there are some similarities in this situation. Right. So that's why I say it's really pertinent for him to work on that jump shot, because it's the ultimate equalizer. And when you add that element to your game, then, it just makes everything stronger. So, to be three-dimensional as opposed to two, because he can't get to the mid-range, and he's good there too. But he gets to the rack, and people don't stop him from getting to the rack. But at the next level, they will. They'll figure that out. And but that said, I think he's now that one, like I said with Bronny, I can't say he's a pro. I would say he has a logical progression of a pro talent. Cody does. Just because, I mean, you can't coach somebody to be 6'8" with a 6'10", 6'11" wingspan. And ball handling skills and the IQ to get around defenders and the shiftiness to get around defenders. So with his makeup, the upside is through the roof. And so, Boyle got a good one there. And Boyle definitely made himself more formidable getting Cody in the recruiting space. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wanted to switch over, talk about Baye Fall, another one of the players who just recently committed to Arkansas. He's in top 20, top 25 player in the class of 2023, 6'10" center from Colorado. A nice piece for the Arkansas Razorbacks here. I'd love to hear a little bit more about his game.
Yeah, Musk got a worker with Baye. I watched him a lot this summer in the Adidas 3SSB, and just a warrior. He's a warrior out there at 6'10". He's raw offensively, but he can, get you buckets down in the low post. Like, he's not a guy who's going to be floating on the wing, breaking people down, shooting NBA threes like that. That ain't his, even,
Right.
centers do that now. It's like, oh God, get in the paint. He's a guy who's going to work and be a junkyard dog down there and do all the little things. Just impact. That's the word on the offensive end and on the defensive end. Shot changer, shot eraser, and a guy who's going to outwork the other big 9 times out of 10 because that's always his goal, to bring the energy. And so he definitely succeeds in that. And every time he touches the court, not a lot of people going to outwork Baye.
Yeah.
So he definitely got a worker in that, and a guy who can flourish in that system. So I definitely think that that's a really huge pickup from us for next season for sure.
Sounds like a great fit too, just based on what they do over there and what his skill set is. That seems like a really nice fit.
Yeah.
Last guy that I wanted to talk about, Ty-Laur Johnson, went to Memphis. It looked like he was going to go to NC State. That was kind of everybody's expectation, kind of switched gears on us last minute, joining Penny Hardaway over at Memphis. What can you tell me about this kid and the fit over with Penny's team?
Well, I love him. Just a high IQ guard. He's about 6 feet tall, so not huge, but really dictates pace well and makes great reads on the offensive end. Really good in the pick and roll. I would say a complete point guard because he can get buckets too. Like, he's efficient from the perimeter. He gets into the lane at will, and he's adept at finishing through contact. So he's pretty strong, stronger than he might even look. But he's a guy who's going to fit in well in that system. I wonder. It's a good problem to have, but to have Ty-Laur and Mikey and JJ, that is a dynamic trio. In the backcourt. So I'm wondering how they're going to make it all work, but great problem when you're talking about how making a lot of talent work. So that's a great problem.
Jason, thank you so much for taking time to talk about a bunch of different players today on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. It is always appreciated to have your insight.
Always a pleasure, man. Can't wait for the next time.